When we study the Elizabethan period, it's very easy to fall into the trap of talking about just the nobility and the gentry and Elizabeth and their conversations and powers and wonderful times, but that ignores the majority of people that existed in the Elizabethan period. And we refer to them as this part of the course as the poor, this general group of people who were the peasantry that didn't earn enough money to eat properly, that likely were unemployed and likely were struggling. We need to understand their experiences, but we also need to understand their reasons for increase. The Elizabethan period saw a massive increase in the amount of poorer people than ever before. So let's get into what that actually means. See, across the Tudors' kind of reign, Henry, Edward, Mary, and Elizabeth, they had changed a number of things that increased the amount of unemployed people, people who now lost their job, or people who now cannot work in the, should we say, business that they used to work in. For example, Henry VIII removed retinues, or what that means is private armies. So all these men who used to work as soldiers cannot get jobs anymore unless they join the English army to go fight abroad. As well as that, the Reformation had got rid of monasteries in England, which had, again, all the people that worked there, monks, nuns, now were again out of a job. And even the poorer people who were helped by those monasteries were now left without a place to go. But two new processes that you cannot really control, that are not really a person, actually meant that Elizabeth, just because of the time that they existed and were the monarch, had to deal with them. One is a move towards sheep farming, which sounds ludicrous, I know, but if you can imagine what a farmer does on fields. I'm sure you've seen fields somewhere, unless you've never left Manchester, right? We are surrounded by them in England. What are they used for? Most of them growing food. And I don't know if you've ever really considered this. Going and filling a field full of seeds, watering them regularly, watching them, checking to make sure they're okay, supporting them and protecting them from animals, then harvesting them, drying them out and moving them to sell them on, is a huge, huge undertaking for a massive just one field. So one, this is called arable farming, where you are taking part in agriculture. You are trying to grow food. That process was a lot of people's livelihoods. 10, 20, 30 people could work at a farm, just, should we say, sowing the fields and feeding the animals. But a new form of farming was being introduced in Elizabethan times, which was sheep farming. The meat from sheep was actually selling for more money than the food that was grown in the fields was, so why not start using sheep? And the thing is, you don't need as many people to look after sheep than you do to look after plants. And so those people who worked with plants suddenly became unemployed and no one was hiring them again. This increase in unemployment increased the amount of poorer people in England. As well as this, there was, I'm going to call it a population increase. General improvements in stability in England, no war, better trade opportunities around the world, which we'll talk about, and as well as that, even just better medicine, mean that the population of the UK began to rise. More and more and more and more people are in the UK because of, if you study geography, various factors. Knowing that, that means there's more and more people competing for jobs, and there's more and more people that need to be fed, which in some cases is impossible for some families with the amount of money they earn. This created a problem that became more and more obvious. There were more and more people dying in streets, more and more poor people and beginning to beg for money, and more people visibly showing that they were struggling with money. This problem was first placed towards the chain of being, right? The person and groups, people above the peasantry, the gentry, would have to try and deal with these issues. But that was not exactly a law. It was not really established. So they might offer a donation to these poorer people. That does not mean their lives are fixed. It created a culture. And the culture was that some poorer people were deserving of help, and another culture of some poorer people who were undeserving of help. We know that this existed because we have evidence of these undeserving poor, who, when you think about it, the idea of that's insane, but undeserving essentially meant that they were trying to get out of work and were trying to hustle money out of you through various tricks. I'll name a few: Counterfeit Crank, Bear Top Trickster, Tom O'Bedlam, annoying people to essentially steal their money. People writing this down and spreading it shows us, it tells us that there was some belief that beggars were doing this, not that it actually might have happened. But we know that the amount of poorer people in Elizabethan England was increasing, and that was a problem that Elizabeth needed to take action in to solve. Thanks very much for listening, guys. See you later.